The AS16 Pro X has been always in my ears for more than a month now, with more than 24 hours of total listening time. My main sources are the ROG Phone 8's audio jack, Ruizu A58 DAP, a generic amplifier, and the Arturia Minifuse 1 interface, all with unbalanced connections. I have paired the AS16 Pro X with Dunu SNS ear tips and FiAO silver-plated cable. The AS16 Pro X, matching its absurdly long name, has an enormous shell. Because of its long name, I'm calling this 16 Pro X for short. Okay, I might have complained too much. After all, I'm tolerant of this size, but others should take into account the size before getting the 16 Pro X. Apart from that, I had issues with pressure buildup when wearing the 16 Pro X. Just to note, I'm tolerable with problems such as these, but again, this must be taken into account. The 16 Pro X does not have good pressure relief and only provides a tiny vent for some alleviation. To my ears, I was able to accommodate the shell size and pressure buildup and did not mind wearing it for long listening sessions. This is most probably because of its reasonable nozzle width and length. Even if it does look like it, I doubt that the 16 Pro X has brass nozzles. Within the gigantic metal-bordered resin shell are 8 balanced armature drivers. According to Casey's website, 1 BA driver is for the bass, 2 for the mid-range, 1 for the mid-range to high frequency, and 4 for high and ultra-high frequencies. Make of the terms what you will. Unfortunately, only one color option is offered for the 16 Pro X. The 16 Pro X offers a highly technical sound with above average, good, separation. Though, the upper mid-range can get overexcited and overwhelm the details found in the treble. The bass is punchy, having a mid-bass focus, but not lacking the rumble, which is pushed further into the background rather than being visceral. This is not because of the tuning, but because balanced armature drivers were used instead of dynamic drivers, which push more air and allow for bass to have more rumbling presence. The bass is quick, arriving and departing before I could reach satisfaction. Because of the bass presentation of the BA drivers, bass is punchy and resolving. Bass notes are heard much more clearly, but only if adequate focus on the region is given. But once found, one can appreciate the clarity of the bass. Even if it pushes less air than a dynamic driver, the BA driver reproduces the sub-bass quite faithfully and accurately to my ears. But there was always this odd, unfulfilling feeling where the bass has great extension, but without the rumbling satisfaction. Every time I listen to passages of songs where the bass is made to be the main focus, I am left empty when it finishes because of the lack of visceral sensation. The lower mid-range and mid-mid-range, the mid-mids, sound clean and not bloated, and the thought of the 16 Pro X having a recessed mid-range did not come to mind. If anything, I think Casey tuned this region perfectly for the configuration. Snares, in regards to the mid-range, did sound forward, but not to the levels of my liking. The details implanted in the mid-range are not overshadowed by the bass. Acoustic and piano instruments are very easy to pick up and focus on, but only with one condition. The upper mid-range is where the 16 Pro X fails me. Casey seems to not understand that more isn't necessarily better, even if their packaging says otherwise. It's simply too much, even a step or two above the Casey Murga at higher volumes. This is because the 16 Pro X at higher volumes, in my case 75% and above, becomes overly excited and sounds unrefined. It was like the BA drivers were set loose once the shackles of volume were broken. Though this does give an intimate impression in guitars and vocals and makes it great for an engaging listen at low to mid volumes. As it would follow, it sounds shouty. I think I'm more sensitive to the upper mid-range 1 kHz to 6 kHz range compared to many listeners. I can see many finding the 16 Pro X shouty. Vocal sounds like ka or ha or anything with an H phonetic electric guitars, and percussion elements will sound as if they were next to my ear, causing me to flinch once in a while. The shrill treble follows the upper mid-range close second in the 16 Pro X's unrefined sound quality. It somehow sounds sibilant to my ears, simultaneously overwhelming the micro details located in the presence and air region, as well as the mid-mids region, going back to the condition of easily picking up details implanted in the mid-range and as well as in the treble, only if the upper mid-range is not introduced into the mix, burying those details in the mid-range and treble region. It must be taken note that my tolerance and standard definition of vocal sibilance may be lower than many listeners, so when I say that the 16 Pro X has attenuated sibilance, others may find it not sibilant half or most of the time. That aside, the sibilance does not appropriately follow the levels of the upper mid-range, and yet details struggle to keep up with the upper mid-range. Despite these downfalls, the 16 Pro X offers something special. Imaging and separation are very crispy, and making these almost perfect for gaming. In my opinion, this rivals the 7Hz Sonus when it comes to imaging. Details can be pinpointed with good accuracy. The mix can be easily dissected to focus on one track and shift to another with ease. The 16 Pro X presents the upper mid-range and treble in a separate plane from the bass. The soundstage of the 16 Pro X, disappointingly, isn't of the same quality as its imaging and separation. It is quite average in my opinion, offering nothing horrible or excellent to note. It might be the limit of its price. The AS16 Pro X could be the best beginner's all-balanced armature set, but the set is quite polarizing. One will hate it and one will love it. But KZ does present a tuning that can be developed further into maturity. But I think the state of the AS16 Pro X is confusing. Indeed, KZ was aiming for a V-shaped sound signature, but the lack of dynamics in the bass made it something less than it could be. Fortunately, KZ offers a better tuned option, the KZ AS24 Pro. But for someone who is looking for energetic bass that isn't visceral, exaggerated resolution, someone who can endure the shouty upper mid-range and shrill treble, someone who likes listening at low or medium volumes, and most likely someone who is into competitive gaming, this is a decent option. Thank you very much for listening to my review, and I hope it was helpful. Please feel free to leave any comments, questions, and feedback for the video. Now it's time to gain out.